ESPN Radio's Freddie Coleman with Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. You're home for New York sports. Our buddy Freddie, of course, used to do radio right here in the Albany area. Freddie, always enjoyed talking to you, man. And you're breaking down the NBA draft this Thursday. Who are the Knicks going to take at number 4, Freddie?
Boy, that's a really good question. How about that? That's probably the $64 million question, that's what it may take for the Knicks to get turned around in the next couple of years or so with Phil Jackson in charge of that franchise. I mean, I want to believe that Karl Anthony Towns is going to go number 1 to Minnesota. I believe that the Lakers are going to take Jahlil Okafor at number 2, and it wouldn't surprise me if Philadelphia took D'Angelo Russell at number 3. So if you're the Knicks, do you go guard with Emmanuel Mudiay, the young man who went to SMU, decided to go to China? Do you go Justice Winslow, the small forward from Duke, or do you really shake up the draft and go Kristaps Porzingis, the power forward from Latvia, who has a Dirk Nowitzki game? If I'm the New York Knicks, you need athleticism in this day and age. If Emmanuel Mudiay is there, I think that's the point guard you take, because right now that's a position of need, and that's a position that you don't have in this basketball team right now.
Freddie, how far away are the Knicks from being a playoff team in the Eastern Conference? I mean, if they get, let's say, Mudiay and a top-tier free agent, do we have a shot here in New York?
I know it's the Eastern Conference, but it's very hard to go from 17 wins to about 40 to 42. We're talking about 23 to 25 wins that you have to accumulate. I still think they're a year and a half away before they're actually serious, providing that Phil Jackson and Steve Mills, who are in charge of these things, make the right kind of moves, whether it's a draft choice, whatever draft choice you have this year and next year, or what kind of free agent you can convince and show them that you are building things the right way, that you're on the right path, and the right kind of guy that you can pair with a Carmelo Anthony and whoever you take fourth. I mean, I know Phil Jackson believes they're close. There's no way. I mean, come on now. Let's be honest. Based on what we saw last year, they still have at least 4 or 5 moves they have to make before we can consider them a serious team in the Eastern Conference.
Freddie Coleman with Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. Freddie, the odds of the Knicks trading out of the 4th pick, as far as what we're hearing, we've heard, Eric Bledsoe and Phoenix's name tossed around a little bit. We can only assume it might get a little more heated as Thursday approaches. The odds that you think they make it happen?
It's 50-50 because, remember, the Boston Celtics, they have 4 picks in this draft. They could be a willing trade partner to move up from number 16 to number 4, and then the Knicks maybe get an extra draft pick and maybe a player that the Celtics don't want anymore that the Knicks feel can help them run the triangle. If I'm this team, though, I'm not trading out of the 4th pick because you're pretty much at rock bottom. Unless you can get an impact free agent right off the jump, if you're going to get that guy, why not pair him with an impact rookie? And now you got a potential 3-headed monster that can give your team a chance with whoever you get to go with Carmelo Anthony and whoever you get in the draft. So I know the Knicks will listen to so many offers, whether it's Phoenix at number 13 trying to move up, Boston at number 16, they're trying to move up. But if I'm New York, I'm staying put because, to me, the best way to build this basketball team, I think for this point, you got to start with the draft first, and then whatever free agent you get out there that can be a compliment to that guy, Carmelo Anthony, that's where I would go. That's how I would do things if I'm the New York Knicks and Phil Jackson.
All right, Freddie, you've got a roadmap. How confident are you in Phil Jackson's roadmap? Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, oh, my God, we're lost, 10 being, hey, we can find our way soon.
I'm at a 2. I mean, we're not lost, but we still need the roadmap to find out where we're going from this standpoint with Phil Jackson, because I don't think he has shown or said anything that as a New York Knicks fan would lead me to believe, okay, he has a general idea where he's going. Now, can I give him a pass on year 1 because he pretty much knew that they were not going to be a winning basketball team? Okay, but that was a lot of bad basketball that we saw from New York going 17-65 this past season. But then you hear some of the kooky things he has said, criticizing the NBA, that Golden State, the way that they won a championship, is not the way to go, or telling the New York Times that he should have been Executive of the Year or gotten votes for Executive of the Year because they trimmed payroll. I'm thinking, if this is your way of giving me confidence, you are doing a zero job right now if you're Phil Jackson. So we'll see after this season what kind of moves he's able to make, and then I think we'll get a better gauge on what kind of path he may be taking the New York Knicks on, whether it's up or down.
Freddie, is it that he's never been in this position, that he's never, had these many forces go against him to where he's got to bail himself out? Because you're right, and he yesterday on Mike and Mike, he critiqued LeBron James and talked about how he alluded to how he travels a lot. I mean, is this that he is not in the place to do this right now? He's not aware of his surroundings. That's the way it comes across, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And doesn't it sound like it's like an exit strategy that he's trying to put out there that if things don't go well, it's because of my health or the league has changed and we can't find the right guys to make the triangle offense work. It really sounds like he's kind of greasing the skids for him leaving before his 5-year, $60 million contract is said and done. So, yeah, I've wondered about some of the things because, believe me, when he was coaching in L.A. and Chicago, he wasn't exactly forthcoming with the media on anything. And it seems like ever since he got on Twitter, he's lost his mind. That he can't stop talking to anybody out there about the state of the Knicks or what he can do or what he feels he can do. So, yeah, your point is valid in terms of it just seems really, really strange that he's putting all this out there for people to digest in terms of maybe he's in over his head and he's trying to find a way out of this before it gets a lot worse in New York.
Freddie, Okafor, he's kind of getting the knock of being a traditional center, like it's a bad thing. Could he slip down, and if so, is that a big miss for everybody who lets him go by?
Here's why it will be a big miss, because I believe that he has an NBA-ready offensive game, and when you can throw the ball to a guy in the post and he can get you potentially 20 and 10, those guys are hard to find in the NBA. Prime example, DeMarcus Cousins. He made second-team All-NBA from Sacramento. They were a bad team, and he got 24 over 12 and over 3 assists, and that's hard to do in the Western Conference. So if he slides down to the Knicks at number 4, you need that kind of anchor and inside-outside game to go with Carmelo Anthony, whatever point guard you feel or whatever guard you're going to get potentially in free agency. So the two knocks on him are legitimate. He can't make free throws. He's an awful free throw shooter, and he's a terrible defender. But if you can teach him a little bit of that to get better at one of those two things, that offensive game is going to be there. And now you got a gem in the middle of your team that can command a lot of that attention, and especially if he continues to grow his game, because remember, he's not even 20 years of age yet.
Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio, Armen Levack, 104.5 The Team. You hear Freddie right here on 104.5 The Team from 11 to 2 every weeknight right here on The Team. And Freddie, D'Angelo Russell, you spent time with him on the First Take set this week. How big of a talent is he going to be in the NBA?
Boy, he is a polished kid, and I'm not just talking about on the basketball court. He's the kind of guy you want as the face of your basketball team. I don't care where he's going to play. I think the one thing that helps him being left-handed but has the ability to go to both hands, but when he gets to that left hand, he is lethal, extending himself to the rim and finishing. He has great range on his jump shot, and I love the pace that he plays. He knows when to speed up, when to slow it down, when to back it out, when to get people reset. Usually it takes a couple of years to teach that to a guy in the NBA. For example, Mike Conley Jr., he had to learn that on the fly when he got to Memphis, and he's one of the better point guards that does not get a lot of credit in the Western Conference. I think D'Angelo Russell already has that already, that whatever team drafts him, he's going to be that kind of leader you need in the backcourt, because in this day and age of small ball in the NBA, if you have a guy that can get you 20 to 21 and 7 to 8 assists, those guys are very hard to find, and I think D'Angelo Russell has that capability to do that a couple of years in the NBA.
When you're talking about well-rounded games, you're talking about Freddie Coleman, so I feel like I can throw this one at you easily. Tom Brady, the appeal hearing is underway. What do you think happens with this suspension?
It's funny you mention that, because we talked about that on First Take today, because apparently he's going to speak under oath, Tom Brady. He's going to be transparent. And my first thought was, well, why didn't you do that earlier? Maybe save yourself a lot of aggravation and having this hearing on June 23rd with the National Football League and Commissioner Roger Goodell and Ted Wells, the investigator. And then I also thought about this. If Tom Brady is willing to do that now, that means he has something that is completely and concretely truth that even Roger Goodell and Ted Wells can't argue against based on their investigation, what the investigation told us about Deflategate that happened that night versus the Indianapolis Colts. Either way, it's going to be very interesting. We have Roger Goodell, who's a part of the suspension being handed down on Tom Brady. You have Ted Wells, the investigator. You know he's bringing what he found out throughout this whole investigation into that room. And then Tom Brady and his defenders from the NFL Players Association. And somehow, some way, the truth is somewhere in the middle of all of that. I think Roger Goodell is hell-bent on making sure this 4-game suspension sticks. I think Tom Brady is hell-bent on not getting any games suspended. Will they be able to meet in the middle? I think that's a big question. What's going to happen not only today, but potentially on Thursday, where they may meet again in the NFL offices in New York.
Freddie Coleman with Armen Levack. And Freddie, this morning on First Take, you also talked about Pete Rose. How much weight should we put into these outside-the-line documents that they uncovered this week?
A lot of weight, because they usually don't miss on something like that, especially when, let's be honest, Pete Rose basically said that it was a fact that he did not bet on baseball as a player. Well, he also told us he didn't bet on baseball when he managed, and look how well that turned out for him when it was all said and done. So he had to have known that if there was a paper trail with his name on it, betting on 30 Major League Baseball teams while he was a player manager in Cincinnati back in 1986, that at a certain point that was going to come back to haunt him. So why would he say that on a radio show in New York and think that people are going to take him at his word? As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't change my opinion about him as a player. We know what kind of great player that he was. But it's not going to change my opinion about him as a person because he's lied before to save his skin, and then when he was caught, he had no choice but to come clean and be contrite. Why we doubt that again when it comes to Pete Rose, who's shown the ability that he thinks he's above everything and everybody else, and that because of what he did on the baseball field, that everybody's going to give him a pass. There's no way that's happening with him.
So there's no way he gets in the Hall? You're not like me, I'm just kind of over it, like just put him in so we can stop talking?
I think if you do put him in, it wouldn't bother me, but you got to put everything that goes with it. You're going to say, here's the greatest hit king in the history of Major League Baseball, and then you got to put everything else that he was a part of when it involves gambling as a manager and as a player. I don't think you can not have that as a part of the story. But Bob Nightingale, when I talked to him, the baseball columnist of USA Today, he said Pete Rose may get into the Hall of Fame, but he won't be alive to see it. It could be many, many years down the road before people decide to let bygones be bygones. And I still don't believe, when it's all said and done, that he's going to wind up as a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
The Freddie Coleman Show, 11P to 2A. One of our favorites, baby, Freddie Coleman. Freddie, you going to come see us this summer or something, man, or what?
If not, definitely in the summer, because my wife and I are planning a trip up there, so I'll definitely stop by and see you guys up in Albany. You know how I do.
Hey, man, would love to have you back in the studio. Thanks for your time.
Armen's buying dinner.
Wait, what? Oh, Freddie, gotta go.
You put his paycheck out there. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Dinner's on Armen. I like that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one, you son of a I like that too, Levack. Jeez. Hey, Freddie, we'll see you soon, man. Love you, baby. Have fun on Thursday.
Love you too, guys, as well. Enjoy the NBA draft as well. Thanks a lot.